continuing with the pattern of recording every single thing I do and not doing anything off screen, I am going to put these variables into my shortcut script and document what they mean. You'll notice that I used all capitals here, and you have that convention of constant class, right? If it uses uppercase, it's either a class or it's a constant. I do like to stick to that convention. So the idea is that these containers are to kind of be thought as constants, right? Right, you put the stuff in there, and then it just stays in that state, right? It's just like trying to think of a good way to explain my thought process of this. Okay, to summarize it, these containers are constant-like. For example, maybe global data. You have a whole bunch of... well, let's look at global data for a second. So, like for example here, right? Initial canvas width and initial canvas height. Well, technically, these should probably be all capitals as well, because I'm also thinking of this as a constant. And sometimes I like to do things like, when I'm writing a library, like non-terminal terminal thingy dot another non-terminal thingy, and then something like dot some variable, right, like this. So these are kind of like constant like the way these are hooked up to each other is it's not going to change. And so when I'm kind of structuring things, I kind of like to use like all capitals, and then the terminal node on the structure where the actual data is, I like to use like a lower cases. That was a horrible explanation of why I do what I do, but I just kind of wanted to explain why these are all capitals. It's okay if you don't get it, because I did a horrible job explaining that, so I don't feel bad if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, because I'm just bad at explaining. Okay, so I don't have any entries for the global data, global functions, and global objects. So I want to make entries for that. So global data, and global data spelled in a few different ways. And then also capital versions of that. So global data like this, and then global data like that. And if you type any one of those, I want this to show up. And if you type it correctly, as it should show in the code, we're going to have a check mark show up by it. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing for the global functions and global objects, but before we do that, we want globe. Okay, so we'll take this, and then global data, and just global data. That's all it means. It's a global data container. And we can make a little note of that it is a global data. Okay, so a short little summary about what that is, and let's just copy everything and just paste it down here and then change some of the names. So what we could do is we want functions and objects, right? So I'm gonna bring up one of my templates. Okay, so the source code is gonna be this. And what we're looking for is DAT for data. Ooh, we already have lowercase and uppercase. I forgot if my search is case sensitive or not. Oh well. We'll see what happens. So we're going to replace that with functions and objects. And it's not going to work exactly. Maybe I'll make some more code to make this a little bit better. But let's just paste the results. And let's see what we got. So it looks like it did a case insensitive replacement, because we got this like mixed case going on here. So we can fix that really quick. So we can just look for that and that, just like that. I know that was capital. I know that was, and then global functions. Global function container. And I wonder if it was really worth it to use that automation. Like maybe it would have been just faster doing this by hand. So, because that needs to be lowercase, right? This was lowercase. Like that seems like it might have been more work than it was worth. I don't know. So global object, and we'll take this, and we need to change the case there. We change the case here. And then global objects, and then global objects container. Maybe we should make those capital C's. I don't know, it doesn't really matter too much. And then here it's GLO, OBJ, like that, all lowercase. And this is supposed to be lowercase as well. Okay, take a quick look and see if anything looks off. That looks about right. So we got our global data, we got our global functions, and then we got our global objects. I was considering this while I wasn't recording that the order of dependency, like definitely data before functions, but I'm not sure if like objects should be initialized last or if it should be like initialized in between, like global data, then objects, then functions. And I guess it depends on how you're going to write your code, but I usually don't pass around, if I can help it, I usually don't pass around objects like they're variables. So I feel like down here is going to be best, because these global objects, there's a likelihood that they're going to access global functions, right? The global objects definitely are going to access like global data. And then also I'm trying to like, when I'm trying to avoid dependency loops, I try to code in a, you know, that general to specific rule. I try to keep that same rule. So data is the most rudimentary thing, and then functions operate on data. And then since global objects is more of a more complicated thing, right? Because it may have functions in it and it may have data in it. Then we want to initialize this last, because it's probably going to depend on these two things, right? If that makes sense. Okay, so we got that, and I forgot to start a timer, so I'm going to stop recording just in case, because I don't want to go over my time, and then I'll start recording again.